The Ghana Integrated Financial Management Information Systems, Gifmis, was launched in September 2009 as part of the Public Financial Management Reforms in Ghana. The Controller and Accountant General's Department, under the auspices of the Ministry of Finance, is responsible for the reforms. This is the story of the journey so far.
Gifmis is just the Ghana version of the IFMIS. Thus, we have a Ghana Integrated Financial Management System. And it's integrated because we don't want to have isolated system, one system for budget, one system for accounting and reporting. You want to have an integrated system that takes care of all. Over the period, we have developed how we want the business processes to be. We also have acquired the various infrastructure, the hardware, not just the hardware in terms of computers and all that, but the servers that hold this data. We've also acquired network connectivity. Ghana budget has been decentralized to the district level. Unlike in the past where everything is centralized at the center. Years ago, 20 years ago, I believe that resources were centralized. But over the years, in line with the concept of decentralization, we've moved not just political decentralization, but we also have to move to financial decentralization in the sense that resources should flow to where the service is provided. Now, so on basis of that, the budgets have been structured and gradually much of the resources go, to the various levels of government, national, regional, as well as the district.
We attempted to put these three together into an integrated, again back to the word, into an integrated system that will be able to provide information to ministers, to cabinet, to parliament. The first major attempt was somewhere in 1996 through 1999. It was put, 2000, it was put in place, and it actually started operating under the POOFMAP program and the BPEMS. When you hear all those, BPEMS means the Budget and Public Expenditure Management System, which is and as you know, that's a IFMIS system, but that's how it was called. But it stalled around about 2004, 2005, part of the reason being the funding to sustain it and all that things. So in 2009, late 2009 going to 2010, we relaunched it and put it in the nomenclature of what all countries do under an IFMIS system. So this is what IFMIS is all about.
BPEM's implementation guidelines and challenges were more or less also a guide for us in formulating the Gifmis, and again also upon its implementation. So in 2009, around May, Gifmis was launched, and it actually took off in June 2010, for which reason the real objectives of the project itself was one, to ensure that we streamline the budget formulation, preparation, monitoring and implementation. We look at financial accounting and reporting. We also ensure timely delivery of fiscal and financial reports to the appropriate authorities. We were also looking at the real regulatory frameworks. Because under the BPEMS, yes, we did tackle a lot of the financial regulations. That is the Financial Administration Act, the 203, and the others, the procurement and the audit. All those things were tackled under the BPEMS.
The project is jointly funded by 4 development partners: the World Bank, DFID of UK, EU, and the Danish International Development Agency, DANIDA. Gifmis was designed as component 4 of the eGhana project with total funding of $60.26 million. The project is expected to end on June 30th, 2014.
Generally, there are 2 legs of the processes that we carry out on the Gifmis. The first is the setups. And the setups, we are looking at the administrative arrangements that we need to put on the system to grant end users access to use the system. So we have two, on the setups, we have two key setups that we have to do that support every business process on the Gifmis. The first is what we call approval hierarchy. The second is a supplier details setup. So on the approval hierarchy setup, what we do is to put on the system the key MDA officers who have administrative rights and responsibilities to process transactions on the Gifmis on behalf of the MDA. And we need the details of this MDA officers to be set up, including their names, their designation, their various responsibilities, the actual processes that they'll be carrying out. Based on this, we give them their usernames and the passwords. The username and then the password is what grants you access to the Gifmis. And for that matter, we identify those who prepare transactions on the Gifmis, those who review these transactions on the Gifmis, as well as those who approve these transactions on the Gifmis. These are the people we set up on the approval hierarchy. And I must state that if you are not on the approval hierarchy, you can't have access to do anything on the Gifmis. And whatever you do on the system when you log on is logged automatically by the system to be able to track whoever carries out an activity at what point in time across the entire process life cycle.
The reforms basically involves using an enterprise resource plan, which is a centralized electronic platform with various components designed to facilitate the flow of information amongst various national institutions in the country.
The public service is to advise government on the criteria for the appointment of public officers, as well as persons to act in public office. It also requires the Public Services Commission to promote efficiency, accountability, and integrity in the public services. It is mandated also to prescribe appropriate systems, procedures for the management of the public service. That is the human resource of the public service. And then to undertake the planning and HR requirement, that's the human resource requirements of agencies. One very important, if we are talking about the relationship with the Gifmis, one very important function is for the public service to develop systems for maintaining and managing personnel records. That is Human Resource Management Information System.
For management information systems, it is about the core system that also provides information for management. So you have your accounting system, if I may just relate it to make it familiar to business and to, to the Ghanaian public. You have an accounting system where you earn advertising revenue, you earn, other revenues, let's say as a multimedia organization, from the various units of the multimedia complex, and you spend. So how much revenue is coming in? First of all, how much revenue did we budget to receive? How much revenue has come in? And what is the deviation? Why didn't we meet, those targets? How did we spend? And if we are collecting less, do we continue to spend as we budgeted? Or do we begin to look at areas to beef up the revenue or, to tighten? This type of information which management requires is all that MIS is about. So and you will agree with me that this is also what households do. For a household, mom and dad are bringing in money. That's their income, either from salary, from, going to the market, from selling, we all know, on the head, going around itinerant businesses, all is brought together. And then there's expenditure for food, for schooling, for rent if you don't own the property, or to set up something, to start a house. out of which you still want to save some money. So I've related it to households and to businesses. For businesses, they follow the structured MIS system. So what we are doing with Gifmis, or what countries have done with the IFMIS systems, is to set up first the revenue generation system, as I said, and then the disbursement systems, integrate it, that's where the word comes, and generate the reports. You know, the heads of units, heads of departments, heads of, ministries like ministers, office of president, anybody who is charged with responsibility for managing the country and which uses the resources will be able to use.
All over the world now, citizens are asking, governments that manage the resources for accounting for those resources. So citizens' demand for accountability for use of resources requires that you should have a very reliable system in place to be able to manage and report on the utilization of the resources to stakeholders. Now, as you get national resources, the first issue will be allocation of those resources in line with government policy, government programs to support implementation of government policy. So as we go to Parliament to tell the representatives of the people how the resources that will be collected in the ensuing year will be utilized, it's necessary we go back, not just directly to Parliament, but we go back to all the stakeholders to say, yes, at the beginning, this is what we plan doing. At the end of the year, this is what has happened.
Gifmis is jointly being implemented by a number of public institutions with major areas of the reforms.
Gifmis has three main components. One is the budget execution and accounting and reporting bits. Then you have the HRMIS, then you have the budget reforms. Under budget reforms, you have two broad components. One is the introduction of program-based budgeting to replace the existing activity-based budgeting. The other component is the introduction of a new budget preparation system to replace what we call Activate using Microsoft. On the PBB side, we are introducing it for two major reasons. One, ensure that the strategic planning part of the budget is automated. That's a major thing. The second aspect is to ensure that we have more strategic information in the budget that we put out. Currently, we have the budget statement and we have what we call the estimate of MDAs. The budget statement provides you with broad information on what each MDA will do, but we devote just about a page and a half to an MDA. Then you come to a very detailed estimate. The detailed estimates provides you with almost every single activity that an MDA will undertake over a medium term. What you miss out is broad outputs that MDAs will be delivering in any particular year. The other information that we want to include in the budget is for performance information. For the first time, we are introducing performance measurement information in the budget. Until this year, if you pick the budget statement and you pick the MDA estimate, you will not have any target set. You will not have anything to assess how an MDA has performed. For the first time, we are introducing what we call performance measurement information. MDAs are including in their budgets now, in the PBB budget document, not just the targets, but we are also having indicators that will help assess them on whether they are achieving the broad policy objectives and the broad outputs that we set for ourselves.
Presently, all the 33 MDAs and 10 regional coordination councils and treasuries have been connected to the Gifmis system, and the plan is to streamline all these funds into the Gifmis system. Also connected are 7 metropolitan assemblies.
We invested so much in training. We've identified a core group of people at the MDA level, whom we have trained and over the period, who manage this system. And also because it's a very comprehensive and, let's say complex system, we've also have a core group of people that have been trained to support the system. Support not only the hardware, but the software itself, so that going forward, we should have the system readily available with very little downtime. With this system, as we roll the assemblies on, at the center, we should be able to pull how much is every assembly generating, how are they utilizing it, what is the pattern of expenditure like at the assembly level. So that would really help.
One of the important areas that we want to look at is training of the human resource managers, because this is a human resource project, and if you have a core of human resource managers who are not skillful in some of the things that they need to do or they need to know, they are not skillful in those areas, they will let you down, because the system is there, but it has to be managed by people. And those people are not just any people, but people who know about HR functions. And that is where there will be some challenge. But we've also lined up training programs for HR managers as well as the IT guys, because this is both functional and then technical project.
All expenditure from the consolidated funds that are based on the 2014 budget can only be spent on the Gifmis system. This means that all activities that have not been captured in the 2014 budget cannot be spent from the consolidated funds. This will help to reduce budget overruns in the country.
We are seeing through the system we are implementing, no longer treating revenue as something that belongs to only GRA. GRA will set up the system for registration of taxpayers. They will set up the system, for assessing tax. If you don't assess it yourself, they will set up the system for filing of your returns. They set up systems for payment, and they set up systems for compliance, coming after you if you don't meet all these obligations. And that is what generates the revenue. But sitting here as minister with management and the rest, we need summarized information on that performance, because we've gone to Parliament and we say we are going to collect so much. So if GRA is not generating that amount of revenue, we should know what is going on and work with the management of GRA, to make sure that we either expand the tax base because it's not, wide enough, or we make sure that we support them with their compliance activities, those who are not, complying. Similarly, the budget division uses that projection of revenue, of course, including grants and the loans that we take. GRA's portion is the largest. It's not true that, the bulk of our revenue comes from grants and loans. The bulk of our revenue on an annual basis actually comes from what GRA, generates. Then there are the two institutions, which is the budget division of the Ministry of Finance, that take those projections in the first place and prepare the budget, which we take to Parliament. And the budget is saying GRA is bringing in so much, grants are coming, so much, and then the budget division does a projection for expenditure and puts the two together. And we either have a surplus or we have a deficit. Many developing countries have a deficit. The third institution is a controller. When the budget division allocates, or Parliament, let's say properly, when Parliament approves what we call the appropriation, then that budget must be taken and put into the Gifmis system.
Revenue collection involves not only the actual mobilization of the revenue, but also being able to account for the revenue. And in both areas, the Gifmis system or platform is of tremendous assistance and help to the Ghana Revenue Authority. With the Gifmis system, we are able to monitor the revenue we collect more effectively, and also we are able to share information with our ministry, the sector ministry, that is the Ministry of Finance, and other related government institutions that partner with us or work with us, like the Controller and Accountant General, and so on. So From the operational aspect of revenue collection, we find the Gifmis tool very useful and very helpful.
The Public Services Commission is responsible for the implementation of the Human Resource Management Information Systems that will integrate with the payroll management systems at the Controller and Accountant General's Department. This is also being upgraded as part of the reforms for efficient management of the public funds on salaries and other public service employee benefits.
Public Service Commission, since 2006, decided to create the Human Resource Management Information System in order to solve some of the problems. But it wasn't possible until 2012, when we realized that the Gifmis project has a Human Resource Management Information System component. So we jumped on that opportunity to use that component to create the Human Resource Management Information System. The human resource functions of the public service, from recruitment, appointment, promotion, development, disciplinary matters, absence management, performance management, all these things are put on a platform to talk to the payroll, because all these functions have financial implications.
What is even more interesting is that with the HRMIS, we'll be able to ascertain the veracity of the information we are getting. And because it's going to be an integrated system, we'll have 3 different sets of information that will be validating each other. Currently, we have the payroll that sits there, we have fair wages having information on human resources, and we have PRSC having information on human resources. It's almost impossible to validate all of that. We're talking about over 600,000 names and at different categories in terms of salary levels and pay. So what we are seeking to achieve, and it's very important because the wage is one of our biggest problems. So it's very important to us that we will be able to have a system that will have us manage the wage. So bottom line, what we are seeking to achieve with this budget reform, one, we hope that it will reduce arrears. Our long-term objective is to reduce arrears, the build-up of arrears. It's also to manage commitments and the way MDAs commit on behalf of government. We also, by that, stop budget overruns, because when MDAs overcommit and there's build-up of arrears, what it means is that even though we seek to implement this year's budget, part of those resources are then used to offset arrears that have been accumulated.
The Gifmis system will interface with other key systems being used by the government institutions. These include the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Bank of Ghana, and the Ministry of Finance.
The essence of it is to make sure that one, apart from we establishing an appropriate computerized system for the public sector, we're also looking at the various interfaces with existing systems like the Ghana Revenue Authority. We'll also be looking at the Procurement Authority. The Procurement Authority, their system that they are also setting up. And finally, I think even with the Registrar General's office, making sure that all these systems are linked up. And once they are interfaced, I think it makes financial information and retrieval of information, linking up of information, reporting and everything become very, very easy.
Recently, when we went to for the media review, we benefited from the Gifmis system, what it is producing now, by looking at the fact, as we stated, income taxes are not coming in as much as they should. Petroleum revenue is coming in, but grants from development partners is just 21%. Then we come to the expenditure side and we said that single spine, even though it's ended and we are making some coming back to normal levels, is still high. Interest payments are still high. We are not spending that much on goods and services and on capital, which is what will lead to growth. So all these now come out of the system, the Gifmis system, as an integrated information, no longer as information from GRA information, which we are now going to be looking at separately, but it should come out with various reports coming out of the integrated system.
Some of these changes come with legal implications. As a result, some legal frameworks will be done to ensure changes are in consonance with the law. When completed, The Gifmis system will serve as the single source system for official budget creation and management, cash and treasury management, financial control and reporting for the country as a whole.
Currently, our plan is to make sure that we roll out to all district assemblies, municipal and metropolitan assemblies in the country. Currently, we have been able to roll out to only 7 out of the lot over 216, MMDs. We intend that by December, we should be able to roll out to about 46 of them. And there it's not just implementing the consolidated fund, but implementing all other funds, internally generated fund, their donor funds, and their statutory funds as a pilot for the phase 1. Then moving forward, if we have the opportunity to get the phase 2, then we have to roll out to all the other MMDs. We intend bringing on board donor inflows or donor projects onto the Gifmis. Again, we also be piloting some statutory funds agencies like the Road Fund and the Get Fund and others also onto the Gifmis. We want to have a nation that has one unified financial management system that is transparent, very, very accountable, and people can use to monitor and take decisions for the country.
Just as the budget director has to take the estimates and put the budget into the Gifmis system, the controller has to take all the warrants. We call them warrants. Warrants are the instructions to the controller to spend the money that is collected according to the budget by ministries, departments, and agencies. So the institution that's responsible for that, the accounting element, is a controller. When they spend, they also put it into the system. Now you can have 3 systems, as we have seen. You can have a revenue system that doesn't talk to the budget system. And therefore, if you are overspending, you wouldn't know that the revenues are not coming in. You are just spending like no other person's business. You can have the controller who cannot provide information back to the budget director to tell him that, wait a minute, the revenues are not coming in, or, you know, according to our record, Ministry of Education or Roads and Highways was giving 15 and they are, you know, they've overshot it and they are spending 18. You know, you don't have that information if they are operating in silos, you know, on their own. Because the controller has a very important responsibility to prepare what is called the public accounts for the ministries, departments, and agencies and put them together. It is that account that goes to the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. So the 2 things that go to Parliament are the budget, which is the revenue and expenditure, which goes through the annual ritual and which we also review, like we just did a media review, and then the public accounts coming out of these 2, comparing the revenue sent in by GRA with what the budget division is directing the controller to spend through their treasuries in MDAs and MMDAs.
From 2011 to 2012, we started deploying the system, making the system accessible. But 2013 is the first year that we have fully utilized our budget resources on the Gifmis system, central budgeting resources, or the consolidated fund on the system. Now, what advantage do we have in having the system in place? One, I said that is integrated, so you don't have parallel systems for budget, one for financial accounting and reporting. Then you also, because it's a computerized one, you're able to get the data online. You're able to get the data anytime you want and be able to pull that data in a timely manner and accurately for that matter. The benefit is that it's not only an accounting system, it is a public financial management system. So even the non-accounting people are using the system. Hitherto, where as a manager, you have to deal with manual documents in terms of giving approval for a program to be undertaken and the related expenditure. Now you do that on the system. Now, because you do in the system, at any point in time, you can pull that data and see where are we, how much resources have we really expended vis-a-vis what we are programmed for.
We have created a system in such a way that certain aspects of the procedures will have to be monitored from here. Even though you are inputting the data from your end, there are certain aspects of it that the system will ask Public Service Commission to interrogate. This system would have in place approved positions and establishment levels for you. So you cannot go beyond that. If you are expected to employ 3 directors, you can't go beyond 3. So the system will help us control the recruitment of people, the haphazard way that we do it now.
Like any new system being introduced, there are many challenges, but are we prepared enough to surmount these problems?
We have a very fantastic relationship with the Ministry of Communications because the NITA and the e-government and e-Ghana platform are there. So that's a platform on which both the GRA and the accounting and budget systems are placed. Do they work as efficiently as we should? I believe that even some of the private sector systems are not working as efficiently as we. So that's no reason to start. Government has invested significantly in these e-systems. And so it is a deployment because the whole Gifmis is electronic. You are just asking about one of the big challenges that we have, which is connectivity. Making sure that, because remember, somebody in a remote site should enter electronically, and it's so that it can be upgraded simultaneously, so that when the person puts in an electronic application and retiring, straight away it should come all the way, move the name from salaries into gratuities, you know, with a program that defines his entitlements and everything, with the support of the HRMS, you know, system. So this is the sort of thing that we are doing. Countries have done it, developing countries have done it, with a fair measure of success. So there's no reason why, you know, we shouldn't do it. The change management is another one, but these were also factored into the planning, as a result of which we have training programs and what I just mentioned, the first high level, not actually the first, high level meeting of chief directors for sensitization. So we hold this. There's a Gifmis steering committee, you know, which I chair, or my deputy, which meets regularly, and we get reports from all these elements to see where they, you know. So change management is a big thing. Resources is always, you know, very short. So because it's a big system for all institutions, and we want to pull resources to do it, you know, we get assistance, you know, from financing, which we arrange from the World Bank, concessional financing, that's a loan element. There are grant elements from the EU, DFID, Danida, that's the Danes.
There are challenges in implementation, and one of the challenges is IT infrastructure. I know that the Gifmis started some time ago, and they have done a lot of work with NITA to ensure that IT infrastructure is deployed to all the MDAs and MMDAs, but it has not been completed yet, and that has been a challenge. Currently, the pilot agencies that we are working with, some of them do not have that infrastructure deployed to their agencies. So we are now thinking of how best, maybe using Gifmis existing infrastructure to help them or to encourage them to use that when we go live with the project. I must say that a lot of public servants now are IT literate, a lot of them. So that is not a problem. More so when, for example, the boss, who is supposed to maybe approve something on the computer, on the system, is not IT literate, there are a lot of people around that he can use to do it. So that is not a big challenge. The most critical challenge is the resistance to change. You know, this what we are doing now has implications for staff who benefit from some of the wrongdoings in the system. Staff who continuously load the people on the payroll which shouldn't be there. Staff who, or the agencies that can get up and say, I'm employing 2 people, when there is no mandate for them to do that, they would definitely resist. But for me, that will not stop us from going ahead. And we're hoping that as we go along, people who choose to resist will have some sanctions or some deterrents that will bring them on board.
Infrastructure of 3 categories. You have for example, the servers. They are the core. They house the data. Those ones, we've gotten those servers in place. Then the next is the connectivity, that even though the server is housed in control, the server is housed in head office, you can still access it at the regional level. And that entails having network connectivity. NITA, that is the government agency, has helped a lot in terms of getting connectivity for us to access the system at all levels. But I acknowledge the fact that as a new system, we do have some challenges. And that is why currently, the discussion we're having with our mother ministry is that we should have a redundant system. What is a redundant system? It's just something you fall back if the main system has a problem. Now, so we believe that when we have that system, the IT people call it redundant system. When you have it, or when you have a fallback position, it means that the system is accessible all the time. If this network is not very stable, you can fall on that. Now, so currently we have only one connectivity, but we are moving to a place where we have a second or a redundant system that we can fall on when we have that. Then on the server, let me put it on the server, we have, because we have support. We signed SLA, support service level agreement, with our service provider to support the maintenance of the server, just as even the software. And these are very repeatable software and hardware support providers that we're dealing with. So we are certain that the level of support we have is adequate to take us through. The other component is the computers, the desktop computers that have to be connected to the server. As part of the Gifmis program, we have deployed, computers to every user that is supposed to be on the system. So as we speak, there's everybody that is supposed to be on the Gifmis system has their own Gifmis computer. Let me put it that way if I can qualify it. So in terms of the desktop computers and even laptops, we've distributed quite enough to the users.
We only need to pay more attention to training our staff and also being able to benefit from the experts who are allocated to us to work with us to ensure that we use the Gifmis with least sweat. Once we partner with them in a healthy way, we are sure that we will overcome the teething problems that will normally come along with the adoption of a new system, particularly a new IT system.
We had a lot of political support. That one, I think it was very well clear. The Honorable Minister, the Controller Accountant General, and all the big players were in support, or they were behind the project management team. So we first walked to the people and actually let them know the real challenges we are facing as a country in terms of our budget processes. So many issues. You budget. At the end of the day, we don't know exactly what we are budgeting for. We budget and the releases become a problem. You budget and accounting become a problem. You budget and monitoring become a problem. So we sold this idea to the people and made them accept the fact that as a country we need to move forward. So the initial one-on-one briefing and the initial sensitization get on well with the key stakeholders in the public sector, especially chief directors were assembled, other directors and various MDAs were also assembled. And sometimes I think one of the things we also did, which also worked well, was the fact that we did not do this sensitization with the people in their own comfortable environment. We try to move them away from their workplaces and put them outside a suburb of Accra or somewhere where we interact with them a whole day and get them to buy in.
We were very ambitious when we decided that we were going to develop the system this year and implement it this year. So we have very strict timelines that we are following, and sometimes it means some officers working extra hours to make sure this is done. But we have a good partner. We have a local company partnering with a Portuguese company working on the system, and they've been very good. They've been we sent 4 people to Portugal to be trained so that we can impart that knowledge quickly and ensure that we have the relevant critical mass of trained people. Again, it's a new system, so you have change management issues. People are so used to using the old system, they are a bit reluctant to start the use of a new system, especially since it's not the same activity. People are very familiar with Microsoft. So getting the transfer of knowledge, getting people to buy in and use it will be a challenge. But I think we have a very good team. And the good thing is that they are all used to, for most of the people, they are used to using a system to prepare the budget, so it shouldn't be that difficult.
A major problem currently facing the public sector is the issue of ghost names.
The controller also therefore runs the payroll system. But the question to ask is the controller the human resource manager for government? No, the controller is the accountant for government. So to get your payroll right, you should know when somebody is recruited. You should know when that teacher trainee has completed and is going to be recruited. Many of these are manual. You should know when somebody is promoted. And we hear cases about people who have retired and maybe a year, 3 months on, they are still on the payroll because the systems are manual. We used to have something called Establishment Secretariat, where all these recruitment transfers, promotions, retirements were coordinated. But right now we have different services. We have the police service, we have the military, we have the education service, we have the local government service, we have the core remaining, the local, government, service, all these services. And above them is a Public Services Commission, charged under the Constitution. And then you have the Office of Head of Civil Service for the core civil service. So we are working with the Public Services Commission to establish a human resource management system.
When you appoint people, they are going to be paid, and that is it has that financial implications. When people vacate their positions and they are not deleted from the payroll, it has financial implications. If people go on leave without pay and they are not deleted from the payroll, it has that financial implications. And those are the areas that lead to what we call the ghost names, because people leave and they are not deleted. With the HRMIs, the Human Resource Management Information System, the power will be given to the MDAs to manage their own staff. For example, the controller who is far away from the agency, when somebody is on leave, he or she will not know. But at the agency level, you know that Kofi is going on leave without pay. So you delete the name at that point, and it's in the system. Once you deleted it in the system, it informs controller that this person is no more working. Therefore, you don't pay him or her. So that will solve, part of our problems. And then also the functionalities. from recruitment, interviewing, appointment letters, and so on. All these things are going to be placed on the system. It's not going to be manual. And you know, the system will not take bribe, or the system will only will reject your request if you do not go according to the procedure.
If I'm going to manage my payroll budget, as with other budgets, then I should take interest on who are on my payroll. And so we think that going forward, now that we've integrated the system, now that we sent out a circular telling heads of MDAs that they should take keen interest in the budget for payroll, just as we have for goods and service. We believe that will address to a large extent the issue about ghost names.
After the resources instruction, then we have the payment voucher. That is what we call the invoice. The bill submitted by the supplier, you get it on the system to prepare the payment voucher. And the payment voucher also goes through the 3 stages: the preparer, the reviewer, and the final approver. And once this is done, the payment voucher is ready to effect for payment to be made to the supplier. The preparation of the payment voucher, the purchase order, will need the supplier details to do this. That is why we needed to set up this ahead of time. The payment voucher will use the supplier details to indicate that this payment voucher or the invoice being processed is in the name of this supplier. So that when it comes to payment, the system will recognize the true beneficiary of that payment. You don't have to key in the supplier when you are about payment. The supplier will have to be captured ahead of time. So once the payment voucher or the invoice is approved, we can now do the payment. So here you should know that we have 2 forms of payment. We have the EFT, or payment to the third parties, and then a cash withdrawal for internal use by MDAs. When you are going to make payment to a third party, like let's say Kingdom Books and Stationery, as when we bought a A4 sheet from them, the setup currently on Gifmis is you have to pay Kingdom Books by virtue of EFT, electronic funds transfer. So the issue of manual check is also out of order now. It's out of vogue in Gifmis. Gifmis, we do electronic funds transfer. Based on the details set up, bank account and all, we are able to issue payment instruction on the system to move money from government accounts straight into the account of the supplier, say Kingdom Books and Stationery. That is what we call by EFT, mentioned by EFT. So the Gifmis is integrated with other banking, Bank of Ghana systems, and the SWIFT environment to facilitate this electronic payment. Then if you need money for internal use, again, there is a specially designed Gifmis check that we can also show to you later on, that you feed into a local printer, you issue a payment command or print command on the Gifmis, and the check is printed. You sign the check, go to the bank, cash money for your usage at Bank of Ghana. That's what I mean. So, ladies and gentlemen, this completes the process to utilize money or your budget on the Gifmis.
The change and improvement desired by Gifmis can be equated to a leaping frog. It, however, requires more resources to sustain and achieve the desired results.